Can you believe it? Can you believe that it's already like back to school time already? It seems like summer had just begun. I swear, time flies. And I'm head over heels. But anyway, guys, yeah. So summer's flying by. It seems like it was just yesterday that we were anticipating the big summer releases. Everybody was looking forward to Fantastic Four and Superman and Jurassic Park. And, we had Thunderbolts earlier. And of course, Captain America Brave New World. It's like all of these things were highly anticipated. And I'd say just about 100% of them underwhelmed. Okay, but one thing that I have been noticing that I have to make a commentary about because I think this is just fascinating as hell is where we stand as a fandom and how we perceive these things now. Okay, because it seems like we have carved ourselves up into little gangs. We have the Snyder guys over here who are invested in Superman flopping. It's like you can't go on social media without seeing these comparisons. Oh, Superman 25 didn't make what Man of Steel made and all of this stuff. And it's like, okay, then I look at Fantastic Four. Everyone is giddy about the fact that Fantastic Four flopped. It underperformed at the box office. And I'm just like, since when did we, the people, we, the audience, we, the content creators, I'll be specific about that, this area of YouTube, since when did we get so damn preoccupied with how much money the studios make? I can understand whether you like the movie or you didn't like the movie. That's kind of what I'm in it for. And was I entertained? Were you entertained? That's kind of what we are concerned with. But I just see so much being made of how much these movies made and how much it had to make the break even. And I'm just like, yo, since when? When we were coming up, we didn't care about this stuff, with Star Wars and all of that stuff. Nobody cared. All we cared about was it awesome? So I just think that there's something, just a little point that we all might be missing, because when you look at things like this, guys, let me just show you what I'm talking about here, right? It's like you look at things like this, you have, for example, Thunderbolts lost millions of dollars despite great reviews. Where does Marvel go next? Okay, so Thunderbolts lost millions of dollars. Thunderbolts flopped. Then you go over here. Fantastic Four, box office flop, bombs with 38.7 million, a 67% drop. Of course, Superman, box office fizzles out, securing yet another Hollywood superhero flop. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is not me giving my opinion on these things. I did my reviews on Superman and Fantastic Four. I felt how I felt about these things. This is not about the quality of these movies, whether or not you enjoyed it. That's on you, and that's actually the point of what I'm talking about here. But it's not just centralized on the movies, right? You go to Ironheart. We know this one well. Ironheart viewership ratings flop as Disney Marvel show fails to chart with 3-episode premiere. Okay, so you got the TV shows on Disney Plus. Go over to Star Wars. The Acolyte has the lowest Star Wars audience scores since the holiday special. Another flop. The Acolyte, once again, not really talking about how much you or I enjoyed these things, right? But the point is, our preoccupation with how these things perform is what really baffles me. Now, I talked about this on one of our last Dark Council streams. It's like, if you want to see me fall asleep on a panel, you start talking about numbers. When people start talking about numbers, I kind of like go to my happy place, bro. I don't care. I truly don't care. Now, I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, if they don't make billions of dollars, then we might not get any more. Okay. Got to remember, guys, a lot of us were comic book collectors. Sometimes you read a comic that was good, sometimes you read a comic that was bad, but you were committed to these stories and the development of these characters. That's what really mattered the most. When you came with a good quality product, a good story, a great story that had a good amount of marketing to it, stuff like that, good word of mouth. then chances are your comic was going to sell well. But these are characters that have endured for decades, man, tens, like decades, of years. So the proof is in the pudding, if you satisfy your audience with a good story, that's really all that matters. And that's really all that I care about. Let the studios, let them stress about how much their movies and their TV shows make. You know what I mean? Like I just really don't understand that, guys, because at the end of the day, when we talk about whether or not a movie makes a billion, whether it makes more than $1 billion, you have to realize that movie making more than $1 billion depends on way more than that property's fan base. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me say that again. That movie that makes $1 billion or potentially makes $1 billion depends way more than just on the core fan base. That movie has to try to cross over. It has to try to reach the normies. And honestly, guys, this is where we fell into trouble in the first place. Studios trying their damnedest to give these properties the biggest element of mass appeal as possible. They want those normies. They're chasing after these audiences, modern audiences. You understand what I'm saying? They want to make $1 billion, so they're going to go after the diversity as they see it, to the neglect of the core audience. This is the problem. I don't have a problem with the Fantastic Four just making 400 million, 500 million, something like that. If they're being true to what made the Fantastic Four great, and that is something that's entirely up to you whether that's your opinion or not. But I'm just saying, if I see the effort, if I have a good time with it, I am not concerned with the normies that they might be chasing after by highlighting a homosexual relationship gratuitously. Now, if that's what the character is, that's what the character is. But you guys know what I'm talking about. All the race swapping, all that stuff, you must know that all of that is in pursuit of the larger audience, of that billion-dollar paycheck that everyone likes to talk about. Superman didn't make $1 billion. Man of Steel, made more than it. So yeah, we're happy about that. Yeah, no, bro, no, I don't see it that way. I'm glad. I think that this is actually a good trend, that these movies are not achieving what they used to achieve. I don't need a franchise, guys. I really don't. When I look at all of the franchises that I've loved over the years, all of the movies that they turned into franchises, I should say, look at Alien, look at The Matrix, look at Terminator. A lot of those franchises were only good up to maybe the second installment, and a lot of those franchises are going on something like 7 installments and TV shows. I didn't need all that. When I want to talk about the essential Aliens franchise, I'm going to look at Alien and Aliens. I'm not looking at anymore. I don't give a shit what they did with those other ones. You know what I mean? When I look at the Terminator and I want to get that old feeling, I'm going to look at the Terminator and I'm going to look at Terminator 2. I'm not looking at anything else. When I look at the Matrix, same thing. The Matrix #1 was a classic. Matrix 2, I actually enjoyed that one. Some people didn't, but I did. But obviously, as it went on, the quality decreased. And you see that not just over movies, but just about over every other forum that you can think about. I mean, look at, like, I'm a hip hop dude, man. I'm a hip hop dude that obviously came up like probably the mid to late 80s through the 90s, right? That's my era right there, right? And when I look at all of the classics from back then, and I look at the state of hip hop today, I'm just like, yo, it seems like the truer it was to the art form, to the artists, and less about the business. Like, everyone wants to sell now, right? So you sign to these record labels, everyone wants to they want to go platinum, and they'll be as ignorant as they could possibly be. The message gets lost because who cares about the message when you're making this? This is the reason why you see a lot of these ignorant, dumbass rappers out here who are making all of this money, and they sound like shit in comparison to a lot of the founding fathers of hip hop who barely made anything. You know what I mean? Same thing with rock and roll. Same thing with metal. You see a lot of the best metal, a lot of the best rock and roll back in the day. What's the state of rock and roll today? What's the state of metal today? You know what I mean? So you look at things like that. So you look at this preoccupation that we have with what's making a billion, what's going platinum. And I'm sorry, bro, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed at all, because I know that what's making that billion, those are those normies. Those are those virtue signal audiences that these people are chasing after. That's what makes the billions, not us, the core, hardcore, loving fans that have sustained this for all of this time. No, we're only going to contribute so much to the pot. It's like I was talking about with Black Panther. And I talked about my experience with Black Panther. When I went to go see Black Panther, I thought I was going to see a comic book movie. And as people started coming in, dressed in African garb, coming in with their noisy ass school kids, you know, chanting all types of African stuff, I was like, okay, this is something more. That's the reason why the movie was the cultural phenomenon that it was, not because it was a superior superhero or comic book movie. It's because it crossed over to that normie audience, to that wider audience that these studios are after. So they convince us that a good movie, objectively good movie, like to me, the Fantastic Four, and that's just my opinion. No, a lot of people don't feel that way. Okay, I still don't. I still think that Pedro Pascal was miscast. Don't get me wrong, but for the most part, I thought it was an objectively good movie. It did a tremendous job of world building, which I really did respect. I mean, I remember when The Walking Dead, The Walking Dead, if you watch those earlier episodes, I know I'm all over the place, but this is another example. When The Walking Dead came out, it was a phenomenon. It was great, you know? And you look at the timeline of The Walking Dead, it was must see TV. Everyone's watching this thing. Then something terrible happened right around season 5, 6, 7. It's like they started doing all of this stunt fake out death bullshit, you know what I mean? And it just went right down the tubes. And then later on, it tried to rebound. Like actually, the writing it improved like greatly. I'm saying, but by that time they had lost the audience. But I was still having a good time with it after being frustrated with those middle season episodes that were just awful. I gave them that respect that I noticed that they actually improved their writing. They actually gave the actors something to do. But by that time, like I said, it was too late. The audience had dwindled to a fraction of what it used to be. And that was the cost of quality returning to that property. In much the same way as I see this as potential for superhero movies. They might get smaller. They might not rake in as much money, but I think what we're seeing with Superman, and I had my issues with Superman, but I know a lot of people enjoyed it. I think what we're seeing with Fantastic Four, I even heard some people say Thunderbolts was not bad either. I didn't see it, but that's what I heard. I think that the potential is there that we actually start getting better movies. They might not be bigger. They might not be as big a money makers as the studios would want. But if you could deliver a good one shot for me, a good one shot movie, I'm happy. I don't need the franchise, bro. I don't need the series, bro. I don't need the crossovers, bro. I don't need to be doing homework, bro. I don't need all of that. Just give me a good, strong, solid movie that does not insult the source material, that gives me what I grew up with. You know what I mean? Same thing goes with Star Wars. That's all I want. I don't need to see a black lead. I don't need to see a gay lead. I don't need to see a white lead. I just need to see a good, strong lead that I can somehow root for. That's all I need, So I would say to all of my peers who are out here who are just so preoccupied and obsessed with counting the studio's money, it's a wasted pursuit, in my opinion. Let's get back to what we've always been doing, which is critiquing the material, supporting what it is that we like, and let the studios figure out what they're going to do about all of this, because they've just about run this thing into the ground. The normies, they don't want it. They're tired of it, man. They're going over to movies like Weapons and Sinners and, like other types of movies. That's what happens when you make these things a trend. Sooner or later, the trend runs out. So yeah, guys, I just wanted to put that out there, something to think about. You know what? It's like my channel. You know, you see on my channel, I have upwards of 13,000 subs, or so it says. But you will consistently see me getting something like 2, 3, 4, 500. You know, occasionally I'll go over, you know, like do something like 17,000 or something like that, whatever, maybe 20,000. But for the most part, 13,000 subs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 views. You know what I mean? And even less comments, and even less people who contribute. You know what I mean? Um, I could say that my channel is dead. I could say that it's a flop in comparison to what other channels are doing that go that extra mile, you know, to, I dare say a lot of them do pander to their audience, you know, or they just work harder, you know, whatever the case may be. But the point is that for those who are here, I do appreciate you. To those who are here who do understand that my approach is a little bit more conversational, you know, rather than I'm just here to entertain you and I'm here to chase after the subs and I'm here to do whatever it takes, you know, to the point where I lose myself and I lose my integrity and my credibility. I'm not doing that, bro. You know, so I'm proud of what I have going on here because I do feel like I'm representing myself well, you know, and I think the studios could do that too, man. Lower your expectations. I know, look, they're making their money, bro, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? It's just that everyone chases after the most that they could possibly get. And there's nothing wrong with that either until you start to lose the quality of what you're producing. You know what I mean? So, anyway, guys, that's it. I've gone on long enough. It's good to see you. It's been a while. You guys know I've been working a lot. And I'm just glad to sit down, guys. So, check it out. You can tell me how you feel about this. You know what I'm saying? You know, do you understand? Does it make any sense to you that chasing, like us as fans, being so preoccupied with what's making a billion is not in our nature? That's the studio's concern. They have us twisted. You know what I mean? I don't know. Tell me if that makes sense to me, guys. You can get in the comment section, like, share, subscribe. Like I said before, if you want to contribute to the channel, I would appreciate it. All right, guys, that's it for me. I will catch you on the next one. This is the Gospel According to Mark with a C. Rock on.